pleasure having you here today. Will
Thank
you
you.
go ahead and give your full name and your practice?
My name is Constantine Kotsanis. I practice in Grapevine, Texas. I'm a board-certified otolaryngologist. I also practice natural healing.
And how long have you been in practice?
About 36 years.
36 years. And when did you start experiencing harassment from the Texas Medical Board?
The past 10 years.
For 10 years. But before that?
Before that was fine.
Okay. So have you,
I had an encounter before that, maybe 30 years ago. Someone didn't want to pay the bill because they thought they shouldn't. So the son of the patient reported to the board, and I received a call from a doctor, a real doctor, from the real board at that time. The conversation lasted about 2 minutes. He says, "What'd you do?" I says, "I saw the patient in the emergency room." He says, "You treated him, discharged them, and sent him a bill." And he says, "Well, you did nothing wrong." End of discussion. No inquiries, nothing.
So prior to the last 10 years, it was handled doctor to doctor, what's going on, what happened, when nothing was called, nothing resulted. You didn't have large legal fees and be drug
zero.
out for years?
Zero fees.
Well,
For the first 25 years of my life,
right?
my medical career, I had no legal fees.
Well, give me an example of a review that you've been subject to in the last 10 years. Just pick one.
It's two of them, really. I was
Okay.
more fortunate not to spare only two. The first one was we were telling the public, because we treat autistic children, that if you were to change your diet, you may, underline may, get benefit. Now, so the board, actually, I suspect one of the family practitioners who was seeing a lot of children didn't like that, reported me to the board. I have no proof of it, but I suspect who he was. And the board went down to the board, and they told me, "What you're doing is you misleading the public."
For saying nutrition could help with the health of a patient.
And then they gave me a choice to go to federal court or pay $500 fine. And if I did that, it's not going to be reported. It's not going to be my record. You're done. It's a slap. It's a parking ticket. Not true. I pay my $500. It's on the website that I was disciplined.
So did that basically equate to an admission of guilt? And so they're saying still that to make statements that food might have an impact on your overall health.
That's what it means, because they don't agree that food has anything to do with health.
Fact that nutrition has a tremendous impact on health. I was shocked that by making that obvious statement that you could come under a sanction of $500 and be listed as
plus $30,000 for legal fees, plus 1 week of preparation, so close to $50,000
on that instance.
It was cheap.
Okay.
Compared to the second one that I have,
Okay.
which is active. I have a gag order. I cannot talk too much about it, except it's still active. And the reason the second case, one employee who was unethical, in my opinion, reported me to the board that I'm doing non-traditional medicine.
Now, do you know for a fact it was that employee?
Oh, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, because
I have no proof.
Because you don't have the right to know who the complaint was from.
She pulled 3 patients. One was an ENT, the other 2 were cancer. So, with a specific name. So they came in with 3 specific names. The only way to know that if you worked for me.
I see. So that's
Okay.
why you think it's...
So if we let this stand, no doctor in the state of Texas will be able to point people towards good nutrition from a scientific standpoint. And it's interesting. So, Dr. Kotsanis, you're Greek, correct?
Yes, I am.
So, Hippocrates, the father of medicine, number 1, to do no harm.
And number 2, let medicine be your food, let food be your medicine.
Absolutely.
Let's not forget that.
Absolutely. And so those are principles that have been around for thousands of years. And we have literally come to a point where we can't say that anymore, that you'll be prosecuted.
From about 500 AD to about 1800 AD, the Byzantines were doing natural healings, and I'm doing a research with them. And Dr. Mary Ipsos, which was one of the most famous physicians of the Byzantine era, he had a book about this big. It was used as a Bible for healing until the 18th century.
So in this particular case with these 3 patients, was there a patient complaint?
No,
Was there patient harm?
no,
Was there suspicion of you doing a criminal act of having narcotic prescription?
no,
None of
no
those.
prescribed any of that.
And Sheila, I want to point out, and I've looked at a number of cases, and it's amazing. With rare exception, the patient is not the one that's filing the complaint. It's someone else. And when you don't know who it is, there's a problem. And in fact, not only is the patient not filing the complaint, the patient, in fact, in many cases, the patient is saying, this doctor helped me when no one else could.
Were you able to see the actual written complaint to see
Absolutely.
what you saw what the
No.
complaint was?
No.
No, not complaint.
No, not the
No, not the complaint.
You never see the
I'm
complaint.
not saying complaint, no.
So you don't get to know who's accusing you. You don't even get to know the circumstances of the cause. This is the alleged cause. And so what has that cost you
So far, $300,000.
in legal fees?
Yes. It's still open. Case is still open.
And is this listed on the Texas Medical Board that
It
you're
is.
under investigation?
Yes, it
So
is.
if I go looking for a doctor to care for my autistic child, and I see Dr. Constantine Kotsanis, and I do a little background on you,
You're
it's
gonna
going to
see
show up?
Those two cases will show up. Although the second case is still open, is pending to go to trial. So
But
therefore, they still report it as investigational.
so
have you ever been approached by any of your peers on the board? Is there anyone that has that kind of training to
No.
evaluate any of your?
I went down to Austin for ISC and
what's an
an
ISC?
That's a
Informal settlement conference.
Informal settlement
And
conference.
it's anything but informal.
Yeah.
Right.
Anyway, so you go there, you have a bunch of lawyers, and you have a doctor, and you have a layperson. And they say, you violated the standard of care. And the kind of patients that I see, the cancer patients that I see, they have gone to every oncologist, every doctor. By the time they come to see me at the bottom of the ninth inning with 2 outs and 2 strikes, and they come to me for help. Okay, so that's the kind of patients that I see. So, and I help them with natural healing, and also to be ethical with what I'm doing. Not only have consents about this big, I also the 2 patients that we're looking at, they were under an IRB. An IRB is an FDA-approved
Investigative.
mechanism in order for you to do a study. And they say they think they're over the FDA.
So technically, they don't even have jurisdiction over those
Oh,
cases.
okay, because the patients that are under
FDA.
under
It's
review
under
are
federal.
under investigative review IRB board, right?
Right.
For
in other
experimental
words,
treatment,
Right. It's a clinical trial,
which should not even be under the jurisdiction of the Texas Medical Board.
which isn't under their jurisdiction.
And yet you're still under investigation with pending court case?
Well, we really shouldn't be surprised that the medical board is looking into that when they're really not supposed to. Mary Robinson said that they are not encumbered by the Fourth Amendment.
Exactly.
Mary Robinson, the executive director, when they were going out, grabbing all these patient files, sharing them with law enforcement in many cases, in direct violation of state law, said also that they were not subject to the Fourth Amendment.
And the examining physician was a GP from West Texas. And after they interrogated me for about an hour, and they come back and says, you must stop seeing cancer patients. No reason, they just stop seeing them. Of course, that's why we take them to federal court.
And many of your therapies are very intent to help build up the
The
person.
immune system.
They're not caustic type treatment.
I will add that despite the fact that they told him that was their opinion, there are no restrictions on his license because they know they have nothing. They even called us to a mediation. We went to a mediation in January. They dropped everything and said we would be getting a letter in March, and then in March they retracted their mediation.
About loss of income, we didn't discuss that. They want to give me a contract to treat their players with natural means. And that contract would have been $750,000. I did not take that contract because I have to apply for a license in Colorado, but because I have an open case, Colorado will not give me a license.
This has happened throughout history. This is an inquisition.
Mhm.
These are people making false claims, either from jealousy or because it goes against the narrative that pads their pockets right now and goes after those that are providing care that is cheaper. Again, we have some of the most expensive healthcare costs in the world. It's our greatest cost at the state level. It's now surpassed higher education and public education in the state of Texas. Driving down those costs by providing better care that does no harm has to be a priority for the state. And right now, as individuals, and why this event with Texas Right to Know for Texas medical freedom is so important, many of these doctors cannot speak for themselves. When they do, when they've come as individuals, they have been sanctioned. They have had to pay fines. It's important that we stand in the gap and we represent the truth for our doctors. And the truth will win.
So thank you so much, Dr.
Thank you.
Kotsanis.